Hi, friends. Welcome back to Brianna's Bookshelf. Today, I'm going to be talking about my summer TBR. I personally just love to make a seasonal TBR. I don't know about you all, but I am one of those people who is like extremely seasonal. Like, I'll always be wanting to have different foods and watch different movies and read different books depending on the season. It just like honestly really makes me feel like connected to the world around me. I don't know how to describe it, but I just love doing that. So, I'm going to be sharing some of the books I'm excited to read this summer. And I do have a few different sections here. I'm going to be going over some books that I have checked out from the library, some of the books that are on my physical TBR, and then some of the books that I am hoping to read on my Kindle or to possibly pick up later on this summer. First off, I have a book that I actually started last night. I'm not very far in, only like 50 pages, and this is From Below by Darcy Coates. This is my first Darcy Coates book. I know that she is a fairly well-known horror author. I have never read anything of hers. I've, to be honest, like just never been that excited about the synopsis of any of her books until I saw this one. This is ocean horror, which to me is perfect summer horror. And this is following a group of basically documentarians, or like one of them is the face of the documentary, and then the rest is kind of like a ragtag crew. And they want to be the first divers to ever go to this sunken ship. It's kind of like the Titanic, but another like fictional version of that in this book. And so, yes, they are on this mission to do like deep sea diving and film it for their documentary. And already right off the bat, it's getting very creepy. Like right away, you can tell that a couple of the people involved in the mission are maybe not who they say they are, or they're not quite as skilled and prepared for the mission as you would hope. So the tensions are getting a little bit high already from the beginning. This is like 500 pages, and I'm very interested to see how it will do with holding that momentum throughout the whole book. But I have hopes that this could be a really fun one. Then I have another library book. This is Widow's Point, The Complete Haunting, and it is by Richard Chismar and W.H. Chismar, so potentially some relatives writing together. This was actually recommended to me recently on my horror bingo video. I'll have to double check who recommended it to me so I can give them some credit. This was recommended to me as a multimedia horror because I had not filled up that part of my bingo card yet. And this is actually a like found footage horror book. So it's told in like a series of recordings and clips, which I think will be really, really cool. Personally, found footage is one of my absolute favorite horror movie, I guess, tropes or categories. And I've read, I think, like one other book that was kind of similar to a found footage vibe. That was the 13th episode. That doesn't sound right. I'll put up a picture if I can remember the name of that book. I think it was a Craig DeLuey book, and I really liked that. That also had found footage aspect. And all I know really about this is that they are investigating a lighthouse that is potentially haunted, and I think this one has potential to be super scary with that found footage aspect. Then moving on to the books on my physical TBR and continuing the horror vibe, I have The Willows by Algernon Blackwood, or Algernon Blackwood. I'm not sure which is the proper way to say it. I'll have to check that. But this is a short story slash novella. It's super tiny, and I have actually read this before, but I've just recently got the physical copy because this is the book for the Classic Scares Club Quarter 2 book club. And we are going to be doing a live show on June 20th on my channel to talk about this book. And I will be joined by Angel from Angel Can't Read, Brooklyn from Brooklyn's Library, and Alicia from Alicia Runs and Reads for that discussion, which I'm super excited for. So I need to do a reread of this and potentially do some annotations. I also just saw recently that Alicia also has this copy, and she says that there are some illustrations in it, which is super exciting. But the, I guess, short and sweet of what this is about is there's two men who are traveling down a river together, and this river is surrounded like by willow trees, and they feel an impending sense of doom, which I feel like does not describe it well. but that's really all I can give you. And I don't remember a whole lot about what happens, to be honest, so I will be intrigued to jump back in and refresh my memory. Then this one's been on my TBR forever, so I'm so excited to finally be getting to it soon, hopefully. And that is Fantastic Land by Mike Bakoven. And I have just heard that this is like the best amusement park horror, which I think is one of the most perfect horror genres for the summertime. Like a carnival or amusement park, just the perfect setting, to be honest. And I'm so excited to read this one. I really don't know much about it besides that. I've tried to kind of steer clear of the synopsis and just go in pretty blind, but I'm hoping that I'll really like it. And if anyone has any more recommendations for other amusement park horrors, please let me know. I have read, I think Tastes Like Candy is what it's called, and that was okay, but I wasn't in love with it or anything. It was just fine. But if you have any recs besides this one and that one, let me know. Next up is Death Valley by Melissa Broder. And this is like a weird girl book as far as I've heard, and it's been a little while since I've read one of those, so that should be fun. And I've heard that her writing is super duper trippy, and we're basically following this woman who goes into the desert to kind of find herself or, have some sort of spiritual journey. And she ends up actually going like inside of a cactus. I don't know if that's a metaphor or like physically or what that means, but it sounds like it's gonna be crazy. And I've heard such good things about all of Melissa Broder's books, so I'm really excited to finally try something by her. And like the desert vibes and like the cactus definitely scream summer. Next up is A Good Person by Kirsten King, and I'm going to be reading this for the Women's Wrongs Support Club book club by Brooklyn from Brooklyn's Library. I am going to be starring on her live show this month. It's going to be later this month. I'll have to put up the day. I don't remember what day specifically. We're going to be discussing this book together, and I have not started it yet. I'm so excited to. This is a really recent release, and this is like another kind of weird girl book, I believe. And we're following this woman who decides to put a hex on her ex situationship, and then she finds out that he's actually been found dead, and she is now a suspect in his murder case. So it sounds like it has potential to be kind of like thrillery slash like weird girl, maybe a little bit of horror, I don't know, and like hopefully funny. It seems like it would be funny. And like one of the blurbs on the front says a love letter to Amy Dunn of Gone Girl. And I have not read the Gone Girl book, but I have watched the movie and love Amy Dunn, so I think that'll be really good. Next up is probably the chunkiest book on my summer TBR, and that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I'm normally not one to read like a really thick books during the summertime. I feel like I usually just want like popcorn reads, but it feels like this is the time to read this. I've had this on my shelves for a few months, and I've really been wanting to get to it. And everyone just describes this book as toxic lesbian vampires. So I literally don't know anything about it besides that. I've also heard it's like super emotional and will like wreck you. And I would love to get to this month ideally for Pride Month. But we'll see. I feel like my reading plans are pretty stacked up high, so I'm not sure if I'll end up getting to this month, but if not, I will definitely continue to prioritize it for the rest of the summer as well. Next category is going to be books that I don't own physically, but that I'm either planning to read on my Kindle or that I may be picking up when they release later this summer. And I have been really in my contemporary romance era lately, I feel like. I don't know what it is. I normally am not a big romance reader unless it's like attached to another genre. But I'm kind of feeling like this summer I want to read more romance, so the first couple are going to fall into that category. I have been reading through the Chestnut Springs series by Elsie Silver, and I want to go ahead and continue that. The next book in the series I haven't read yet is Reckless. I think this is the fourth book in the series, and I don't know a lot about it. Like, I'm not sure what the tropes and everything are. I'm pretty sure this one is following Theo, who, if I'm remembering correctly, is like a family friend of the family that this series follows, and he is a bull rider. Now, the first book followed one of the brothers from this family who was also a bull rider, and that was not my favorite book in the series. I felt pretty mid about that one, to be honest. I feel like I'm just not super into that concept potentially, but we'll see like what all the different tropes are and stuff and how this ends up shaking out for me. But I feel like it still has potential. I just really like Elsie Silver's writing. It's just so easy to read, and she just really writes the family and the town of Chestnut Springs to be so cozy. I would also like to get to Unloved by Peyton Corinne. This is the second book in this series, and I really, really loved the first book when I read it at the end of last year. That was Unsteady, and it was a hockey romance. That was the first hockey romance I've ever read, and it was like extremely intense and had a lot of emotional depth, and it just like really sucked me in. I ended up giving it 5 stars. So I am excited to hopefully continue the series soon. The next book is also hockey romance. I don't know exactly who it's going to be following, but I'm assuming teammates of the first guy. And there were some good side characters introduced in the first book, so I'm excited to find out who it's about. I would also love to get to Direbound by Sable Sorensen. There's not a lot of fantasy on this TBR for the summertime, but I am wanting to get into this one because people seem to absolutely love it. It seems like it's so addicting and easy to read that I think it will work well for summer. And most of what have heard about this sounds like it's kind of similar to Fourth Wing in a way, but there are werewolves or direwolves instead of dragons. So I think that these students or whatever are being trained to fight with these direwolves, and that's like literally all I know about it. And I'm hopeful that it would be a fun time. And then I'm interested in The Someday Garden by Ashley Poston. I have never read any of her books. I know they're quite popular in the romance genre. I believe that they are like a magical realism romance. So there's like a little bit of a touch of magic to all of the books. And people seem to absolutely love them and say that they like make them cry and they're so touching and like 5-star romance. I've never been that excited about the premise of any of them until I heard about this one. I honestly did not read the whole synopsis because I'm wanting to be somewhat surprised. But all I saw was that it has some sort of secret garden aspect. I believe the main character finds a secret garden and then that leads to this romance. And I love the secret garden and that whole concept. So I think that this is probably Ashley Poston's book that would be best for me out of the ones she's come out with so far. I'm also interested in Stormy Weather by Chelsea Curto. Chelsea Curto has written a hockey romance series that I've not read, but I know there's been a lot of hype about it. I keep hearing about how good her writing is. So I think that this would be fun because this is a new book. I'm not sure if it's a standalone or starting another series, but basically it's following two meteorologists who are kind of workplace rivals, and they both get sent to Florida to track a storm during hurricane season. And that sounds like a lot of fun. Like it has a lot of potential to be like exciting and funny and dramatic, and I think it would be a good time. I'm also interested in Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth. This one I know next to nothing about, but I feel like I've seen a lot of people reading it this year and who have really, really liked it. And the little that I do know about it is that it is a like lesbian coming of age story about two girls in Ireland, I believe. And it sounds like it's one of those books that's just like really relatably written that will like tug at your heartstrings, make you feel like they're really real people. And I don't know, just like the cover and the description was giving me Sally Rooney vibes. I don't know if that's true, but we shall see. Then one of my anticipated releases is The Summer Fun Massacre by Craig DeLuey. I literally don't know what this is about. It has like a summer camp on the cover, so I'm assuming it is a good old fashioned summer camp slasher, which sounds like such a fun time. And that is the perfect kind of horror for summer, truly. Plus, I do also really like Craig DeLuey. I've enjoyed most of his books that I've read, so I am interested in picking this up for sure. Then, last but not least, is In the Wake of the Ruined by Kaylee Cassidy, and this is the sequel to In the Veins of the Drowning, which I read just about a month or two ago, and I really, really enjoyed that. I thought it was a super fun siren romantasy, and the sequel is already coming out in July, which is crazy. So I'm excited to hopefully get to that and continue this series. So those are all of the books that I am hoping to read this summer. Please let me know down below what book you most want to read this summer, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!